Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Katie Lindquist. Welcome to my home in Summit, New Jersey. Come on in.
To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Katie Lindquist. I'm an interior designer, and I'm based in Summit, New Jersey and Charleston, South Carolina. So this house is very special to us. We kind of happened upon it. I had actually sworn this road off. I had looked at another house on this road and I thought, no, I'm not looking on this road anymore. And my sister found this house and sent me the listing. And we took a trip from Manhattan and walked through it, and it was an instant connection. I'm so glad that I gave it a second chance, because this home has character that it's hard to find, and they're not making them like this anymore. So when we renovated the house, we also really wanted to give honor to what it was, and maintain everything that we could and just kind of improve what we could. And I think that we really accomplished that. This home is a 1936 Colonial, and it really has sort of an English cottage feeling to it. When you walk in, it has a warmth that is, I think, very palatable. I do love that about this home. The colors are in the warmer feel, but there's also a strong sense of neutrality throughout the house. Nothing's too overwhelming or too in your face. I really wanted this space to feel calm and to feel like it was a place where my children could just grow happily and not feel too overstimulated by anything. But I do also love the small details that were added that give it the feel that I was trying to go for. This home feels very collected to me. It's not so much hard decorated as it is collected. This home has evolved over time, and each piece in the home really has meaning and value now, which I think is a hard thing to say about certain homes. Each piece of furniture is used here, and each room is used in this home. It's not the biggest home in the world, but it has enough space for all of us. And as my husband always says, when we're all in one little room together, we really don't need more than a few hundred square feet with our crew. So this entry hall, when we first bought the house, was really closed off, dark. And actually, there is still that element to it. There was a major closet right behind you that kind of, as soon as you walked in, everything felt very tight. So one thing that we did was we opened up the hallway, and we wanted to have a bit more of space to have this be a meeting ground while still feeling cozy and true to what this home is. We really feel like we accomplished that. There are traditional elements, but there are also more contemporary elements, and that is something in my design that I try to do. Wherever there's something somewhat traditional, there will also be something a little bit more modern. Art is a huge thing to me. This I'm really, really proud of. This is a Lily Wallace original painting that I was able to acquire in about 2015, I believe. I had called her and said, do you have any works of art still left in your gallery? And this was the last painting that she painted before going on maternity leave. And I was so honored to get it, because I've now lost so many of her paintings at auction. I can't literally get my hands on them. She, puts them online at a certain time, and one of her swans I'm still very sad about. But this painting gets a lot of attention. Our friends and our family always kind of love it, and it's the first thing that my children see when they walk down in the morning, and I love that. All right, let's go into the kitchen. So the original kitchen in this house, when we purchased it, ended right here. This kitchen didn't exist. I do miss that original kitchen, the green Formica countertops. All the appliances were extremely old, but extremely reliable. The oven preheated in about 4 seconds. It was brilliant. But as we kind of got into this process, once we bought the house, we really had planned to immediately start renovating. That was not the case. We had underestimated how expensive it was to renovate a house when we first bought this home. So we had gotten quotes for just the kitchen, and then we got architectural plans to kind of do everything that we had wanted. And one thing that my husband and I were actually very thankful for was that we had the grace of 3 years to have to kind of sit down and gnaw on the blueprints and move things around and see how our home wanted to function, not just for us originally having no children, but then how we wanted it to function with children as well. And so that timing actually really helped us out. So in this, and having to wait 3 years, we embarked on like a true renovation of evolving this kitchen in terms of also adding feet. So we added 16 feet behind you, and this kitchen we gutted and made flow more easily for this home. This was a huge addition. We added pocket doors on each side, which are very helpful when you have crawling babies going around. You can just lock them into the kitchen, because this was really the heart of our home and a place where I spend a lot of time. These bar stools specifically, if you need something that children won't fall off of, are amazing. Plexicraft in, I think it's Long Island City. They're amazing. They don't fall over, but this is a story of essentially, the cobbler's children have no shoes. I've been trying to make a third bar stool since our 3-year-old was born, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But that's the life of an interior designer in her own home. Everyone else's house looks beautiful, and my child has to sit on the floor, but it's fine. The material is Imperial Danby honed, which I'm really into. I love it. It has an organic quality to it. And it actually really patinas. You can see things have fallen on this. It's very live, and it's not too precious, but it's formal enough, but it just feels comfortable and homey and warm, which is really what we wanted to do. And if anyone knows me, I'm a huge fan of unlacquered brass, which is all around this house and a very big part of who I am, and just like my DNA. I really like unlacquered brass. I really think that having personal details in a kitchen, for me personally, is important. Little things for my children at school, photographs. It makes me feel connected to my space, and I don't think there's any better space than the kitchen to kind of show the personal side of your family. This is the range, and I have a cutting block over here that I generally bring over here when I'm preparing food, but it's also nice. I actually oftentimes will just cover one range, and then I have the space to have my utensils and then use the ranges that I need to use. So it's nice to have that functionality actually when you're cooking, to be able to easily reach a spoon and whatnot. This little nook here in the window was something that had to happen architecturally, but I'm really glad that it did, because this is now my herb garden, which I love to have. It's that little ledge, and I can hide things behind it because it's so deep. So if I'm having someone come over and I have one little thing that I don't know where to put, I can just drop it behind there, which is kind of nice. So it's a great little addition. And the greenery in the kitchen, I think it's a wonderful design element as well. There's nothing like an herb in the kitchen to just make it look really well done. We gutted this house, so the cabinets that were once here were not going to be staying. Karis Crafted Kitchens in Pennsylvania made all of our cabinetry. They're fantastic, and I highly recommend them. We were able to go and visit them and see what they had to offer. But I think working with someone who does great cabinetry, like a real worksman, is great to have. And can really take your cabinets to the next level. So one thing that I think is really nice when you're designing a home, we redid all the windows, and one thing that I did, and I'm really glad that I did, was unlacquered brass hardware on the windows. Especially in my rooms with a lot of natural light that I wasn't covering. It's like the perfect accessory, the nice little piece of jewelry on the window. It patinaed over time, looked beautiful, and it just gives it that legitimacy that if you are renovating a house right now, those little details really can take your house to the next level. So consider that if you are thinking about redoing all of your windows, consider the hardware. So we're off the space from our kitchen, the more, I would say, family room-ish area, but really it's just a comfortable spot to sit and relax. And my children come here, they pop down in the morning, and it's just a nice little windowed area that you can look out and relax. In the evening, that little lamp that I just added not long ago has been very nice. You can sit there and read and just have a nice time and enjoy. The banquette behind you is a nice little addition as well. I designed this banquette when we designed the house as well. This has been great for us. All the kids can kind of fit and sit, and we have, back to school supplies in here and Play-Doh and all that jazz. This is a space where the kids can kind of take reign and know where their things are and go and get them and start playing and have a good time. It's a very lived-in kitchen. It's a very lived-in table, nail polish galore, everything. This is definitely a space that our children love and enjoy and can use. Creating space that can be separate within one confined space is very important. And with open concept now, it can get difficult. I actually like separation of physical rooms as well, but even within a larger space like this, where it can feel a bit cavernous, I do think that just creating separate usages is really important. The powder room right off the kitchen was an addition. We did not have a bathroom on the first floor when we bought this house, which was sort of hard for us to manage. So this little powder room we added, and I'm really glad that we did because it's an important thing to have on a first floor. I love this space because, again, right being off the kitchen, I lacquered the walls in a faint green, Riley Sheehy's beautiful drawings on the wall with an oil painting, and some antiques, beautiful flowers. There's not much more, that a bathroom needs. I love this mirror. Etched glass always goes far for me. And it's just a sweet little space. And I'm really happy to have a powder room on the first floor. So it was a good add. I thoroughly enjoy renovation. The most exciting thing is kind of being your own boss in a sense. You're not working for anyone. You are on your own time frame. If you get it done and you push for it and you're managing the contractors correctly, it's a really wonderful process. And it was really nice to do with my husband. For a hard finance guy, he has got a very creative eye and sees things spatially differently than even I could. And I really appreciate that about him. So we were a great little team. I could make things really pretty, but then he could every so often pull it back and say, functionally, this should be a little bit bigger, this should be a little bit wider, and that was a great perspective to have throughout this. I felt like I wasn't just doing it alone for a client, I was doing it with someone, and it made it all the more fun. Okay guys, this is a special little courtyard that we created when we built this house. Originally, there was a front facade of this house. As you can see, all of this stone here. We actually took that off of this house and we used that stone to create this courtyard. And this was a real love child of my husband's. I knew that I wanted something off of the kitchen that I could go to, and he really took this over and created something very special. We weren't even sure that it could happen, but we kind of farmed into the land and made something really magical. Jerry Sinegra in town actually did this, and he did a phenomenal job. His guys are just aces. But I do love that we were able to use most of the material from the existing house. So it's an homage to what once was, and we created something new with something that was old, and I'm very proud of that. The garden was a huge source of focus for me. I do love to garden. I have my mother and father who are from England and have a very green thumbs. So having their input in this was very nice. We wanted a layered English feel. We have a lot of boxwood and repeats, which really helps the eye. When we go in the backyard, you'll see the laurels with the boxwoods, which adds just like layer of green on green, which is a very nice thing to see. And we have the rose hedge at the front that our poor roses with all the rain are just not enjoying their life right now. So they're browning out. This one was a sea of beautiful red, and we're just past its prime, unfortunately. But when they are amazing, they are amazing. So this is a place where we love to eat brunches, breakfast. This is a very happening spot for my children. They love to be out here. But when I'm having a formal dinner, my parents and my sister are coming over tonight for dinner, we eat in the dining room. Why don't I take you in there and show you what we've got? So this is our formal dining room, but it also really serves as my office on most days. This is a very central space in the house, and like I've talked before, I really love having the doors open and being able to be indoor, outdoor. I normally sit right there and do all of my work, and most people in their dining room buffets have silverware and things like that. I have envelopes and stationery. This really does become my office when it's not using its purpose as a dining room. But for tonight, I have the table set, and I'm using Penny Morrison, who I absolutely love. I really love the hand-painted whimsy of her things. They're fabulous. And just whimsical flowers, which I just gravitate towards. And I just think mixing textures and keeping things interesting, tortoiseshell with etched glass, my brass duck that I always love, some heirloom silver. It keeps a room really interesting. This room is one room that wasn't touched too heavily when we renovated. We did do one thing. There was a built-in behind you that just didn't really feel like it served a purpose. It was a bit small, nothing really fit into it. So I did remove it and just sort of created one general space. We had Phillips Sedgwick grass cloth on the walls and Schumacher on the drapery. So drapery in a dining room, you've got a few options. You can do straight panels, or you can choose to do it up a little bit more, which is what I did in here with the cornice and having a bit more of a tailored feel. I'm really happy with it. I felt like I wanted to cover the window a bit more and make it feel a bit more done. And so I was really happy with this application of the Schumacher. And it felt really kind of luxurious in this space. And it felt like I was just tying the room up with a bow with these drapery. This is where art, I think, really comes into play. My husband and I give each other a piece of art for every anniversary. And Michael Rich is one of my favorite artists. He is at the art gallery. I have been collecting his series for quite some time. And in here, I wanted this to feel a bit like a gallery. So one kind of cohesive statement. So Michael Rich is making a statement in here, but then I added a more traditional oil to kind of keep that yin and yang going. Like I said, it's really important to just sort of not just be one note with something, especially with art. You know, go to the things that you gravitate towards, but also keep it interesting and allow there to be some interest in what you're picking and some diversity. These chairs were one of the first things that we purchased when we purchased this home, and I love them. I love their whitewash quality. They've got beautiful detailing. They just have sort of an antique feel to them, and they go so well with this antique table that my parents gifted us when we also got this house. I have recovered them in this calico fabric that people love. I get more comments on these chairs than anything else, and I'm just so happy with them. So this was the first thing that I had in this room, and then I went to the rug that I got at Stark in Morristown. I love Stark rugs, and I kind of evolved it to the Schumacher drapery, Philip Jeffrey grass cloth, and then from there just sort of found accessories that I felt helped ground the room. Brown furniture, some people love it, some people hate it. I'm an enormous fan of it. This buffet, which is one of my favorite pieces, was found on First Dibs and shipped over from England, actually very quickly, I might add. And it just adds the perfect element to the room. It really, it just is the anchor that this room needed, and I love the mirror above it. It's a great accent, and it really brings the light. Again, if you don't have a mirror on a wall, using a mirror to show that light is a very helpful design element, so keep that in mind. And this, I have to admit, is kind of my catch-all. Mail, Amazon boxes, things that come that I need to keep organized, I sort of throw in here on my day-to-day basis. So this is something that actually gets a lot of function, but it also looks very pretty. So there are other ways, you know, to store things, and this beautiful cache-pot is my solution. Choosing your dining room light fixture is not an easy feat, and you definitely want it to be something that's timeless enough that will grow with your design, you won't get sick of. I really feel like I hit the nail on the head with my dining room fixture. I love it. It has a beautiful Parisian feel to it. It's interesting, and I loved it the second I laid eyes on it. It is Erin for visual comfort. I've also been a longtime fan of Erin Lauder and her style, both in her home and her personal aesthetic. So I gravitated to it the second that I saw it, and I feel like it adds that touch of whimsy that a dining room can use. It's a bit playful, and I don't ever get sick of it. So I'm thrilled to have it, and I think that when you find something that you get excited about, you should try to use it. So I'm very inspired by the layering of fabrics and textures, patterns. I'm inspired by the 1960s and kind of the Art Deco movement as well. I really pull a lot of inspiration from art and even fashion at times. I find that a lot of it is all intertwined. I think that it's a combination of finding things that are inspiring to you and how you can kind of translate that into your design and make it work in a home. And for me, it's very indicative of my clients. I meet a client and I just kind of understand their vibe and what they're trying to go for and what they like about me as a designer, but really what they're trying to accomplish. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones living in their home. They're the ones who, when I leave, are left with it, and they have to love it. Okay, so this space we also created in this house. There was a koi pond here originally that didn't bode well with mosquitoes. It was a mess. So we had to remove that, and we created a bluestone patio that we live out here with. So I'm thrilled that we did it. It was a great decision. One thing as a designer I do try to tell my clients is to not neglect the outside. I live out here, and so I want it to feel stylized, design, and comfortable. And so with clients, I often also tell them that, don't forget the outside. It's something that can add tremendous value to your life if you have the ability to step outside and you're happy with it. The furniture that we picked out here is timeless, and I think that's another huge element. Teak always works really well. These cushions are essentially bulletproof, and I just change out cushions as I need to kind of go with where I'm going that season. I don't change them every year, but every few years I think it's great. So this is a Julia Amory tablecloth that I had made by Maxine Makes. She's fantastic. She made all these pillows for me, and I added a Samuel & Son trim just to sort of add some interest. But what I love is that they have just an effortlessness about them. I had the tablecloth. I really liked it out here. I sometimes have a table out here that I had that on, and I thought, why not use that and kind of create my pillows this season? And I'm really glad that I did, because I had this trim and I got inspired by it, and then I saw the fabric, and sometimes things just work together. So it doesn't necessarily need to be fabric by the yard that you find interesting. It can be anything. If you have a great workroom source, Maxine Makes, anybody can use her. She's not just to the trade, and so she's a wonderful source. If you want to have something made yourself and you have the material, but you don't have the means to make it, I'm not sewing things. She's someone you should definitely look into, reach out to, because she's a genius. She's great. This is a Serena and Lily coffee table that I actually bought on their floor sample sale. That is something to look out for, everyone out there. You can get great deals. This I bought off the floor, and I've loved it. Very durable, but weathered. It weathers with time. As you can see, it is patinaed, but I kind of love that. So it's a great feature, very sculptural. I just love it. My daughter has crayon all over it also, so you have to roll with things, I guess. And then never underestimate the importance of an umbrella. There are so many great options now, even on Amazon. It just really adds that shade that you need and allows you to be outside a little bit longer. When you're building an outdoor space, I think you want to look at the ability to be comfortable out there and how that space is going to serve you. For me, I knew that this space out back was going to be a place where we lounged, relaxed, and just sort of gathered. It wasn't going to be a place where we had formal dinners, and it wasn't going to be a place where, we were doing work necessarily. The courtyard really has that element of a formal dining area. Our grill is out there. It's a coveted space. It's private. Dinner parties out there are fantastic. Breakfast in the morning. One thing I love about this house is it's completely gated in. So I feel really comfortable with my kids kind of going back and forth. All of the spaces relate to each other, but they're also secured off kind of from the outside. So it's a great way to kind of live. I can have the kitchen doors open and they can be in the courtyard, but then they can run through to the backyard and then come in through the dining room. So flow to a home was something that we really looked to when we were renovating and how we wanted our house to kind of work. So that's one of the biggest things that I can say to when you're looking to carve out outdoor space. Look at how it relates to the inside of your house as well, and how you can kind of make that space become a space you want to use. Out here, I have some more annuals, the butterfly bush and the daisies. Lavender is something that my mother always grew in Pennsylvania, and I just wanted to grow it as well. She does little lavender satchels to put in your drawers to make things smell beautiful. And I just love the smell of it, and every time I smell it, I think of her. So that's something for me that I needed to have here. But another huge part of who I am are orchids. I love orchids. I've always had them, and this is the first year I found this antique stand and at the Summit Antique Mart, and I'm trying to do outdoor orchids, and it's working really well. I've grown a few of them. I'm proud of myself, but it's just a pretty add of color, and it keeps things interesting. I come out and I check on them. I see it in Florida a lot, that they will, attach orchids to palm trees, and that's always been just something that made my heart flutter a little bit. So I had this curiosity to see what orchids would do outside for me, and it's an experiment to say the least, but I'm enjoying it. So out front you saw the boxwoods, and out here you're also going to see a layering of the boxwoods as well with the laurels, which just add tremendous privacy. I would say laurels really like to grow on something. We have hornbeams behind these laurels, and I think it's what allowed them to go to the height that they're at. I mean, that was a success, I have to say. But here we have the repeat of boxwoods again with the helleborus. I love helleborus, also known as the Lenten rose. It's one of the best cutting flowers, and essentially has a very long life. It comes up, it's mainly spring, but I mean, I can come out here sometimes and find things, early summer. So I think it's a great plant to plant if you're looking to have something that you can cut. So we're outside now, but the best part about this is that we're steps to inside and right off the playroom. So I'm gonna take you in there next. Come on. Okay, so we're in from the outside and we are in the playroom. But I love a good antique, and so our playroom has a beautiful antique secretary in it, which I adore. I found this at Summit Antiques, and I fell in love with it. One thing to kind of make your antiques feel more modern and they're fitting into your home is to sort of dress them up in a more contemporary way. So I have a more sculptural piece with flowers in it and a great piece of contemporary French art. And I store my grandmother's beautiful china in here. Keep it safe. My kids can't reach it yet. I'm probably gonna have to find a new spot soon because I don't know how long it's gonna be safe for. But I just love the rosette detailing on this, and it's just a piece that I found recently that I'm thrilled about. One thing I love about this house is how all of the rooms kind of relate to the other. They're close and you can kind of get in and out, but you can also go up and down pretty quickly from each room. So this staircase, which is original to the house, we were going to change the staircase when we renovated, but it was gonna have to be much larger and it didn't really work. So we kept this original staircase. I painted it and stained it to make it feel a little bit more up to date. But this kind of playroom, family room leads directly up to my husband's office and then into my dressing room and to our master bedroom. So it's really nice to kind of be able to come downstairs this way, go upstairs. The kids often, when he's in a call or something at the most inopportune time, sneak up there. So maybe it's not always the best thing, but it is what it is, and we really do like having the accessibility on both ways. We bought the home, like I said, from the anesthesiologist and his wife, and she did all of his bill pay. So this was originally her office, and it was very closed off. In our formal living room, there was actually an exterior window that looked into this space. It was all brown, it had cut off with built-in brown bookcases, not in like the pretty way, just sort of in a heavy way. So we really wanted to give this room new life and breathe some fresh air into it. We elongated the windows as high as we could, and this picture window really was a pivotal changing point. When you walk into the top of our living room, you can look directly down in and see out, and it's a really beautiful vision. The color of this room we just felt was fun and interesting and kind of lent itself to the brightness that we wanted this room to have. The kids play in here. There are pocket French doors to kind of close it off from the formal living. But it's a way to kind of have an informal space still feel pretty. And I think that that's a very attainable thing. Some of my clients say, well, I don't want to have a nice chair. I don't want to have something nice because of my kids. I totally get that. And I also just think that certain things you need to look for durable fabrics. Leathers are great, you can wipe them, and you just sort of have to roll with it. Stains are they're going to happen, and you just sort of have to have your plan of action if they do. But you just kind of have to go with the flow. So I've talked about art, and I love using my children's art. It's something that makes me happy, and it makes them really happy too, to see their art professionally framed on a wall. I think it gives them that little boost of confidence. My oldest daughter did both of these pieces when she was in nursery school, and I framed them and had them done. And she is among the wonderful work of Lily Wallace. This is an original of Lily's, and I feel like Ellie's in good company with this. The rug was the very first thing that we picked in this family room. It inspired us. Stark brought over, I found it there, they brought it over on approval, and my husband was the deciding vote and loved it. So we went from here, and this was sort of the inspiration, and we pulled everything out from there. This wonderful traditional wing chair was a great thing to have as well. It's comfortable, the nail head detailing is very cool and has a more contemporary feel with the Greek key. This I found literally very inexpensively. I can't exactly remember where, but it's all worn off on the top, as you can see. But this is something that I just added to the mix. It was not an expensive thing. It was a very last minute find. And it works perfectly in here. I love it. This sofa is one of the most comfortable sofas ever. It is the depth of a twin bed. The children get really comfortable in here. I mean, it's like movie night central. They can all almost fit side by side on this thing. So it's really great. This coffee table, as you can see, it has its wear and its nicks, but it's great. This actually comes off, and you can do puzzles on it, games, whatever. So you can take that off, do what you're working on, and still have the space underneath, which I think is great. And it has storage underneath. So there's form and function, and neither need to be compromised. This sweet little palm my husband and I bought at a street fair in New York City before we were married, and it's still kicking. So this actually is one little chair from a set that my sister and I had when we grew up. My mother gave me the table and chairs. I have one also in the formal living room. I feel like the kids love to pull up to that coffee table and just like hang out with us when we're in there. But every child loves a little chair. Oftentimes I will, if they're having dinner, they'll pull it up, they'll eat, or they just kind of sit. I find my daughter in here with like little books just reading. I think that inviting a child to kind of have a space, a little seat their own size is always a very nice addition to a room if you can have it. This is just filled with toys, like Hulk toys. It's a big deal. There's every superhero that you could possibly imagine in here and more. And my son knows how to have a good time, we'll say that. Natural light is a huge inspiration for me and my husband. He really loves natural light. Very deliberately, I didn't cover these windows with window treatments. I wanted the light to stream in and to feel really open and airy. Very much the greenery is our privacy factor. So the outside protects us from the, being seen from the outside. And I love that fact. I think that you need to find that balance in certain rooms. Not every room needs to be overwhelmingly natural light. This room, it just works really, really well. And you'll see in the other rooms of my home where I could make that decision and where I had to dress the windows. But I think anytime you're given the opportunity, take it, because there's nothing like natural light. There's nothing like feeling just that airiness of a room. And I just think it adds such character and heart to a space. One great thing that we did in this space is we added French pocket doors with glass in between our formal living room and the playroom. So for example, if we're having a party and we've got friends over, we can be in here hanging out, and the children can be having a great time in the playroom. You can close the door should you need to. They can see you, they know where you are, but everyone can kind of do their own thing. This is our formal living room, and this space always sort of sang to me. This room is the room that I saw and I was just blown away by. I really loved its grandeur. I loved how it had a formality to it, but it didn't feel stuffy. And I think that we really kind of honored that when we decorated it, and how we live in it as well. So this drapery fabric I had even when we were in our New York City apartment, and I was itching to use it and was so excited when we found this house and I could put it to good use. I just loved the colors and everything in it. And actually the walls are a very faint lavender paper, which just add a bit of texture and that layered element. So you think it's a paint, but it's actually a wallpaper. There are some other great little details in here, like these sweet chairs, these antique chairs that I drove all the way to Brooklyn for, and it was well worth the drive. I love these chairs. I mean, the carved drapery of them, it's just fabulous. And I covered them in that Lee Dreyfus strié. These rock crystal sconces were one of the first things for this living room that I found, and I just fell in love with them. I found them at Larabor's Antiques in Manhattan, and they sort of set the tone for this room, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I found them, I fell in love with them, and another interesting detail with them is that, these are antique sconces. The light bulb matters. So you could have a candelabra bulb in there, but I added a round bulb, and I think that it just gave it a bit of a modern take. And so those are suggestions that you can take into your own home when you have a light fixture that you love, but you don't want to have like a candelabra bulb on it. Sometimes adding a small round just gives it that little kiss of modernity that takes it to the next level. We recovered the settee in the window seat to just add a bit more saturation of color, and this is just a great little seat. This is a great spot where, if we're having a cocktail party, people sit, my children sit here and read. I have a lot of photos of my children like playing Barbies on here. This gets a lot of action. It's not just a cocktail party seat. One thing about our home is that it's well lived in. There are not off rooms. We live in here, we're all in here, the dog is in here, the dog is up here, she's up there. So we need things that will also be durable, and I think that we've found that. Velvets, high performance things, but also just going into it with the perspective that things will get dirty and they will, have marks on them, but there are ways to kind of circumvent that and just kind of enjoy the patina of it all. This table is an antique that I actually got on eBay, and I had this in our Manhattan West Village apartment. It was the first antique that I purchased, and I love it. I love its little legs. I couldn't get rid of it. It was, I think, $200, and it's one of my favorite pieces of furniture. I will always adore this thing. In the West Village, when we had our 700 square foot apartment, this would flip up, and we would use this as a dining table. It was really sort of that thing where we didn't have the space, but when we had to make the space, it worked. And it still works today, and I'm really happy to have it. This is my favorite cow painting that I got at Great House in Summit. They've got amazing works of art if you're interested. And I actually also got that one there as well. And I love these together. I think that they have a moodiness and an interest that they get me. But this cow specifically, this little French cow, was a great find, and I'm thrilled to have it in my little collection. This my husband gave to me a few years ago for an anniversary. This is an 1894 oil by Thomas Griffin, and it's just something that got me. I really love it, and you have to find art that speaks to you. And I think that once you find it, it doesn't matter really what it is. You just have to, lean into that. This room has more traditional art, I would say, than the rest of the home. And I'm okay with that. I wanted this room to feel a touch more formal. My husband's parents gave us these beautiful French works on paper for a wedding present. And I found these little sweet things, these little vignettes at at an antique store in Pennsylvania. And this little work on paper in the center, my father's very good friend did for us. And I am thankful to have it in our home today. This is a working fireplace, but we put a gas insert in it and we have it on all of the time. I love me a fire, and I do love that I can just have it on at any time. This is the same Imperial Danby that's in our kitchen that I used also for the surround. And it has that kind of organic nuttiness to it that I just love. This Baker coffee table is a beautiful addition as well. But like I said, with children, things happen, and my daughter was taking her nail polish off on the table, which kills me. And that's my point. I look at that now and I kind of miss that she was 6 years old and doing that, because she's 11 now. But the point is that my gorgeous coffee table has a mark on it, but that's my point. You gotta live and learn with it all. So the only thing really, other than the staircase that's original to this house, is this built-in. I had great plans to rip this built-in out, to be honest with you, but we ran out of time and my husband wanted to get back into the house. And so that was that. We were keeping this, and so I painted it, I changed the hardware, but I actually kind of love now, with my nostalgia, that the doors stick. They're not quite right. It reminds me of what once was. The green Formica countertops that I sometimes get nostalgic for. I can just come and pull open a drawer and remind myself that these are very old as well. But the built-ins are a great way to kind of show the collection of your life and show your family in like a nice way. I often find that like one of the best gifts for someone is a silver frame. It's something that adds cohesion to a bookcase. Doesn't need to be all the same type, but just the element of a silver frame, it's a beautiful addition in a bookcase. But then you always have to have something handmade right next to it, right? To kind of give that juxtaposition. This is just kind of a little showing of who we are. And I think people come into our home and they like to look and they like to kind of walk down memory lane with us. And oh my gosh, was that your first date? And oh my gosh, is that Millie as a puppy and your children? And was that your father or your mother? So there's a storytelling to be done when you're doing your bookcases, that it doesn't need to just be objects that sort of are whatever, tell the story of your life in your bookcases. All right, well, that's the first floor, but why don't I take you upstairs and show you the master bedroom. Okay, now we're in our bedroom, and this is a special little space. We'll start with the rug. Again, Stark, I'm a loyalist. I love their rugs. This has an antique quality to it. It is a vintage rug, and it worked perfectly in here. I pulled the light blue from the rug. This is Farrow & Ball light blue, and so it had that saturated quality without feeling really dark. It just worked beautifully in here. The Schumacher Roman shades are just so fun. These lamps are not expensive at all. I found them, I believe, on One Kings Lane, and put a Femois shade on them and just dressed them up. It works great. Grass cloth side tables. This is a very comfortable but also livable bed. I don't really love a fussy bed. So this Matouk bedding is the perfect complement to the Schumacher fabric. The greens are something that I really gravitate towards. It's my favorite color. And this green specifically almost has a blue undertone in it. It's hard to describe, but I was just immediately drawn to it when I saw the sample. And I'm glad that I committed to it because I just feel like it pulls everything so beautifully out of the fabric. And because this is a bedroom that I share with my husband, there's also a touch of masculinity to it. And it feels like it's our space together, not just, my space. Bedside tables, they can tend to get a little bit cluttered. I every so often try to pare down. So I'm in this stage of really wanting to keep it relatively easy next to my bed and not too much stuff. So I have flowers. I've got, 2 nice quotes from my mom, lamp, and then anything else. I'm glad that I have 2 drawers in my side table. Not everybody wants a drawer or can have a drawer given space restraints. But being able to tuck things away and grab them is always a nice thing in a bedroom, I believe. This chair I just had recovered and I'm obsessed with it. The brush fringe, it just feels like such a good time. And this great kind of peachy fabric with those heavier tones, it's everything. And this is my little desk where I sit. You can see some of my beautiful stationery here. This is sort of a place where I will not do my heavy lifting. Like I said, I'm pretty partial to the dining room table, but I do get some things done here when I actually have a minute to sit down and do it. But you can also kind of use it as a place to kind of fluff yourself. And I love this mirror, 19th century mercury glass gilt mirror. Just adds that little element of fun. And this gold color, just kind of velvet, I was really inspired by, like I said, and I'm just happy to see kind of the color run through the room. To me, home is more of a feeling. You want to be able to walk in the front door, sit down, take a deep breath, kick your shoes off, and feel like, okay, I can dissolve into this space. It's safe, I'm happy. And I want that for my whole family. So I feel like if I can create a home where my children also really yearn to get back to, I've done my job and I've successfully created a home. Homeworthy, this has been a blast. Thanks for coming and sharing my home with me. I hope you come back soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.